Hello. Today I will be featuring the Tier 10 US cruiser, the Des Moines. Now, I covered this a while ago, but recently for some reason I've been seeing a lot of comments again about how this ship is supposedly underpowered, how it's weak, how it's this and how it's that. And personally, in my opinion, I think it's absolute nonsense. This ship, yes, this ship has a weakness. Its biggest, absolute number one weakness of the Des Moines is slow shell speed, which naturally means that the longer the range from your target, the harder of a time you have hitting it. Range is actually not an issue because I always recommend a range build on it, which actually gives you 18.4 km range. And you can even stealth fire if you see T-10 battleships at that range, and it's very easy to hit battleships with these shells at that range. The only thing you struggle, of course, to hit is cruisers and such at long range. So that is its weakness, and that is in fact the only real weakness I can think of. I mean, okay, it doesn't have torpedoes, but trust me, the ship doesn't need torpedoes. It has super heavy AP shells instead. Now, there's a reason why they designated these shells as super heavy, and that's because these AP shells are really insane. It's the same shells you get on the Baltimore, but the difference is you now have a 6-second reload. Now, that was the weakness. The weakness is the range. The advantages? It handles great. In fact, it handles so well that I don't even use the rudder shift module, like the one that the 1 million one. No, instead I use the reduction in fire damage. That's how well I think this ship handles. And it has some of the best AA in the entire game. I mean, if a T-10 carrier tries to strike you or anyone near you, it's not a question of killing a few planes on the way, it's a question of you slaughtering every single plane coming your way. It's brutal, it's one-sided, you absolutely destroy planes. That's a strength. Second strength, turret placement, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, and you can shoot at extremely steep angles, as you can see here. You can see just how steeply you can bring the third turret into the battle, so you can angle quite well while still bringing all guns to bear. Now the speed, decent. I mean, you're not going to win any speed contest, but you're no slouch either. It handles well, much like you would expect a high-tier cruiser to handle in that aspect. And concealment is actually quite good. It's not as good as the Zao, which is the absolute king in this, or the Minotaur for that matter, but the concealment is very good. And of course, finally, it has radar. It has the nastiest radar of them all, because the radar lasts 40 seconds. Now, I cannot overstate how insanely long that is for a DD. I'm telling this gearing in front of me, please smoke me up, as I'll be moving on to B. It looked like they abandoned A, so I instantly moved to B here. And 40 seconds of radar, when you can shoot shells every 6 seconds, is absolutely disgusting. And the thing is, this, I pop my radar, spot this for Fubuki, and the thing is, these shells, these aren't like the gearing shells or Belfast shells, which do a bit of damage here, a bit of damage there. When they hit, they might break a module. No, these are 203mm HE shells from a Des Moines. These shells, every time they hit, they wreck things. They set you on fire, they destroy things. You don't bounce, it doesn't matter what DD you are, you won't be bouncing these HE shells. They're gonna be penning and they're gonna be hitting hard. And it's absolutely brutal for any DD being on the receiving side of this. Because, well, when this radar is popped, you are going to eat a lot of damage. In fact, that Fubuki had no chance. He got absolutely murdered. And of course, not only is the HE great, but once I'll get the chance, I will show you the AP, which is of course one of the bread and butter of the Des Moines and one of the extreme strengths of US cruisers, pretty much starting from, I'd say, Pensacola. Yeah, pretty much starting from Pensacola. Already the AP volleys on that ship are insane, but it just becomes stronger and stronger until you reach the Des Moines. Yes, you have floaty arcs, but I will be making a lot of commentaries on the Des Moines because I want to address some of the issues. Yes, the arcs are floaty, but people often tend to focus on how that's a negative thing, forgetting that floaty arcs can also be a positive thing, especially on the very open map designs that VG for some reason loves to put into high tier games. Like VG pretends to be confused when people sit back and snipe, and then every single map design they put up, every single new map they put out is this huge open area with no cover whatsoever. And then they're surprised when people camp in epicenter and zone mode turns out to be a failure. Who knew? Anyway, of course, the AP. Well, shot the volley at the hipper. Not really sure if I'm gonna hit him. It was more of a throwaway volley. Turpit's pushing in. I'm gonna turn away just in case. This is a bit risky. Of course, you can see just how much damage. That was 6k damage just from the HE itself. And of course, the fire chance itself is extremely high. Constantly setting fires, he's got damage con active, but as soon as that damage con runs out, he will be on fire. But now I switch to AP. And the AP is of course disgusting. That was 7 point... Oh, he grounded. That was 7.6k. I didn't have time to do any more to him. This is North Carolina. He's not really aiming at me. I can only shoot him with my back turret though. I'm actually gonna reverse out, see if I can get some more guns on him. I need to be careful though, because if he starts aiming at me, I need to move out. That was tactical grounding, of course. I would never accidentally ground. No, it does happen, but you see, he's angled, but because of the plunge, once again, the so-called floaty arcs, I get the plunging fire, and the plunging fire can be extremely nasty. Oh, his guns are aiming my way, it's time to move on. Yep, that's... wait, well, he aimed at me, now he stopped aiming the Fubuki Torp, so I'm gonna move away. Oh, looks like Kagero landed some torps on him. Oh, we have a Habarovsk back here, and we have a Za back here. There's a bit too much messy stuff going on there, too many angles to cover at once. Now, the Des Moines is quite a tanky cruiser, as long as you get to point it towards the opponent. That's something you need to use, that fantastic turret placement, you need to use those fantastic angles to your advantage and actually be able to angle against the enemy. When you start giving broadside, it's actually quite squishy. Much like the Baltimore and much like the New Orleans. Angled, you're tanky, giving broadside, you're squishy. So that's something you really have to keep in mind. Hence why pushing into that position at B was something I didn't really want to do yet, because there's too many angles at the same time. We have Zhao down in the south, and we have Yamato Hipper on that side, and up to the left we have Friedrich der Grosse. Too much stuff at the same time. No, Hipper pushing in, really? Yeah, you don't want to be doing that against the... Oh, he's giving me broadside. This is a very short story if you do this mistake against the Des Moines. Very, very short story. This game is turning out to be quite difficult though. Well, our Zumo is pushing in now. This Khabarovsk is harassing our Amagi constantly, and that's a bit of an issue because... the problem with the Magis or general battleships dealing with Khabarovsk is that, well, they need to be good shots. And if they're not good shots, then they're gonna struggle with the DD. Because Khabarovsk, of course, relies on dodging shells. Now, surprisingly, Des Moines is actually quite good at hitting the Khabarovsk. Mostly because it doesn't handle that well. And whereas you can juke 1 or 2 volleys, juking a volley every 6 seconds is pretty much impossible. So you're gonna start landing shells on a Kaba. It will happen sooner or later, no matter how much juking and no matter how much dodging you do. The shells will start landing. And of course, as I said earlier, these shells hurt. It's heavy shells that are hitting, and it doesn't matter, like you can dodge and this, you can juke a volley here or a volley there, but because of the sheer DPM, which is of course one of the absolute strengths of the ship, because of the sheer DPM, it doesn't matter how much you're juking, you're still gonna be eating damage. And you're gonna be eating a lot of damage. In fact, this Khabarov smokes up and continues fleeing. He has to be worried about my radar. He might consider that I'm chasing him or whatever. I have no intention of doing that. All I wanted to do there was force him off the back of my Amagi, so my Amagi wouldn't constantly be cooked by him. Because, well, I just recently posted a couple commentaries, you know exactly what that ship is capable of if it gets to free fire. So my goal there was obviously to prevent it. Our Ibuki, is he really sailing into... Well, he sailed right into the torps. Of course, DD in front of me like this, that's guaranteed death. He has no chances. Now, Cyclone has hit though, and Des Moines actually is fantastically strong in a Cyclone, because of course, this long duration radar. The thing with the radar in Cyclone is that it increases your vision past what is limited by the Cyclone. The Cyclone limits your vision to 8 km. Radar extends it, I think on this one is 9.5 you have on the Des Moines radar. So I got 1.5 km range I can shoot where no one can shoot me back. And in fact, going to B, I'll be popping it. Oh, that's a lot of targets I'm seeing. And of course I pick the DD. The first one I pick is the DD. I'm completely undetected and I'm able to fire at him easily because he's away from cyclone range. See, he slowed down, he tried to juke the other way, but once again, as I said earlier, we're talking about the rate of fire. His engine is broken. It happens a lot with these shells. They hit hard, they break stuff. Unlike Gearing or Atlanta or something that kind of tends to tickle a DD to death, like multiple small hits, in this ship you get multiple heavy hits and you just break stuff constantly. Absolutely constantly breaking stuff. Well, radar ran out. I think I forced the repair on this Amagida. Uh-oh, I got stuck. Come on, move that booty. Move that American booty, please. And he's continuing to spam HE since I know I forced his repair. However, even I don't care about fires if he gives broadside, because once a battleship, it doesn't matter what battleship, if a battleship starts giving you broadside, that's when you switch to AP. And as I said before, super heavy AP, call that for a reason. You do not want to get close to a Des Moines. It doesn't matter what ship you are, you do not want to be on the receiving end of this. This Zhao, well, he wanted to wreck the Montana, but he didn't take me into account. And, well, Zhao versus Des Moines close range, it's not as much as a competition as much as it is a slaughter. As I've said when I commented on the Zhao, is that it's a mid to long range specialist. The Des Moines, a close to mid range specialist. So if you get close range to a Zhao, well, that's exactly what happens there. It doesn't matter if he starts sailing away, then I switch to HE and I cook him. He can't bring nearly as much damage to bear on me as I can bring to him. In a close range fight, as long as you don't eat his torps, the Des Moines absolutely slaughters the Zhao. It's not even close, it's just a complete slaughter. As long as you don't eat the torpedoes, which is of course. But if a Zhao turns and gives you shoots torpedoes your way and you don't punish him with Des Moines, then you punish him with AP, then you have terribly misplayed as a Des Moines. But I chose this game as my first Des Moines commentary because first of all I'm solo queuing. And there's plenty of movement around, like I'm trying to control the map, defend my team and so forth. But I will be featuring a lot of these games with a lot of different situations. There's team play ones where there's smoke and holding positions, and there's some competitive ones. I have one where we face like a German competitive division, where I will show the strength of the arcing shells. And I have plenty of these commentaries lined up because this Des Moines is not a weak cruiser. People should really not consider that. The Des Moines has its own niche and its own thing that it's extremely strong at, and it's in no way weak. In fact, and it also of course hard counters Royal Navy cruisers very, very hard. See, here I make a bit of a mistake. I thought that second fire that popped up was a fire on the Yamato, so I thought I had two fires on the Yamato and he would burn to death while I focused the Friedrich der Grosse. However, what I didn't notice was that it was actually a fire I set on the Grosse with my secondaries. Did not take that into account at all, so that leaves the Yamato in the back still alive, which is of course quite unfortunate. This game seems to be collapsing quite fast for us here. I was shooting a bit too high. I'm trying to hit that sweet spot. You don't want to hit the belt. You don't want to hit the belt, and you don't want to hit the superstructure because you overpin the superstructure. You want to hit like the line pretty much there. That's exactly the point where you want to hit. That's where you get that massive, massive heavy damage. Where you get these full pens instead of getting the overpens. But the problem is, of course, I'm tanking a Yamato and a Friedrich der Grosse at the same time. And even though, as I said, the ship is very tanky and survivable, I got two fires on a 3 now, and there's nothing I can do. And sadly, my Moskva buddy, well, he dies soon after, and the game ends very quickly. However, looking at my rewards, it's making 680k credits in a T10 game is certainly not bad. 237,000 damage, and, well, almost Kraken. Shame I didn't finish either of those two, would have been nice to have my Kraken. Going to base XP, well, looking at the base XP, it's not exactly hard to see which ship had the highest impact on this game. That's the power of the Des Moines, and certainly not to be underestimated. Moving on to the detailed report, Well, you can see just how spread out my damage is. I have a bit of fire damage that tends to change heavily depending on game type. If battleships angle a lot against you, then you'll have more HE and fire damage. If you get broadsides, then you have more AP damage. In this case, I have 144,000 just AP damage. Hence why it's called super heavy AP. It is no joke. And game time 40 minutes. So 237k damage in 14 minutes, and trust me, this is just the beginning. I will be featuring a lot of Des Moines games. But seeing as this is my first Des Moines commentary in a while, I'll go over the build for the ship real quick right after, because people usually, especially if they haven't watched my previous commentaries, they always tend to request that. Right, as usual, I will start with the modules. Well, it's a T10 ship, so not much to talk about here. But consumable wise, I always recommend premium repair, and if you're gonna run another premium, then premium heal. If you still can afford it, get radar, followed by finally AA. Usually cruisers will avoid you, so it's unlikely you'll even need premium AA, but I run it because I have the money. Upgrade wise, main armaments mod 1, AA range mod here instead of aiming systems. You spam so many shells so often you don't need increased accuracy. You want to increase the range of your incredible anti-air instead. Gunfire control, increasing your main gun range. Main battery mod 3 only gives you 0.6 seconds of additional, well 0.7 seconds actually, I think, additional reload, and it comes at the cost of turret traverse, so not worth it. Damage control 1 and system 2. Here's a bit different. I run damage control system 2 instead of rudder shift because I think the 8.6 second rudder shift is plenty enough that I actually prefer the damage control system, especially since I tend to spend a lot of time angled in and not really moving, and reducing the fire duration is quite important. Finally, of course, stealth. Captain perks wise, basics of survivability, expert marksman, superintendent, demolition expert, and concealment expert. Finally, vigilance for that close range ability. Now, if you queue a lot with CVs, then going AFT is of course very, very viable as well. Anyway, this was my return to the Des Moines, and there's plenty more to come.